Good day everyone, hope you're all doing really well. What you see here in the background is where my journey ended with the Qucusaur after flying across the entirety of Teyvat, including Celestia. So this is effectively the end, and whilst my journey is completely over, you're gonna see quite a lot of it in today's video, so it's gonna be a long one, so hopefully you can enjoy it. I think as the video title suggests, we want to get to Celestia. So let's begin. Where is Celestia on the map? Roughly, approximately, pretty much right there, as you can see on the screen. They're in the Chinyu Vale, and if you're ever really wondering how Celestia looks like, it's yeah, it's a tiny little PNG floating in the sky at a fixed position. Not what any one of us were, well, basically if you saw a couple of Musashi's old videos you probably knew it, but after about 2 years after his video release, Hoyo has changed nothing. Nothing about Celestia has changed in any meaningful way. As you can see, it's just at a fixed location in the map, but the view that you have towards it always changes. So if you're very far out the map, you can still see it for some reason. It's just an optical illusion, but this is kind of officially where its place is. I know, it's kind of anticlimactic. It would have been cool to go and fight the unknown god, but it is what it is. So for the rest of this video, I'll be giving you a tour of Teyvat, and I think we can begin with my favorite region, which is the region of Inazuma. Here from the Shogunate's tower, you can see we're just soaring here with the Qucusaur. Now, some of you might say, well, this is not really that unique because I can just climb on top of the tower and glide as well, which is true. I'll show you a bit of a higher aerial view from Inazuma, but I do think that there is just something much more unique and magical about the fact that you can do this flying, literally flying, not gliding, but flying over the place. It just looks really cool. I think you can better appreciate the geometry and the shapes, and this is just one of those things that I think Genshin is not tapping into enough, and that is how do you take the existing content and create a new fun experience. For example, just flying here, I can immediately think of a new 4-star story quest with Qucusaur, where you go on top of the shogunate or there at the tower, and then you can wind glide quickly around the entirety of Narukami Island. Just a bit of a fun way to do it. If you've ever played like the Golden Archipelago or some of the limited time events, they have all of these wind currents that just allow you to zip around the place, and I think that is something that we are genuinely missing, some excitement to go and just fly around and enjoy things. You can see here we're going to fly around the Narukami Shrine with the beautiful big tree here. I've just sped up the footage in the background, otherwise we will not get through to today's video. I've got about 2 hours of recorded footage, and I haven't even recorded like the full journey because it's just that much, but it looks beautiful. I think it gives you a bit of a new perspective on what's really a very, very gorgeous game. The only thing that I would like is if distant things rendered in more properly, but it is what it is. And as promised earlier, here is your fly or like high altitude view of the entirety of the mainland of Inazuma. It looks cool. You can see there is the Sera Island, Tsurumi Island, and then the other areas as well. It looks cool. I think one thing that I would like as well for Hoyo to do is do like an aerial battle here. So you are up here in the air with, let's say, the Raiden Shogun, because the Raiden can fly. We've kind of seen it in lore and not in game, but in lore mostly she can. But imagine the Raiden and the Electro Dragon just duking it out, and you've got like a special stage and you're just zipping across the place. It would be so cool and cinematic, and I think that's what people want. We want the cinema. We want to really go and enjoy the experience. In any case, here we are at Liyue. You can see here just going through the harbor. For those of you that saw my previous video, you'll understand why we occasionally dip down with the bird. It's the old saying, you go down in order to go up. So that's kind of how that works. We explained this in the previous video. But you can see here with the Liyue area or the Liyue harbor, once again, it's the same thing viewed from a different angle, which just gives you a bit of a fresh or like a more fresh perspective of how the game looks. If the game, well, the game was never designed for this, but if it were designed in a way such you had like seamless transitions between shadows and objects, not just popping out but slowly like coming into rendering view, then I think Genshin could have been like an absolute masterpiece. But like my original Sumeru video, where I basically blamed mobile, I still blame mobile for the fact that this game is not quite where it really could be. Nonetheless, it kind of feels really, really cinematic when you get to places like these. And naturally, here is a bit of a view of Natlan as well, because why not? I have shown the inland of Natlan over like the mainland with Chaska in a previous video, where you can legitimately fly up without any glitches all over the place. It is incredibly cool. You can see here in the background as I'm ascending up how the area looks like from an out of bounds perspective. So this is more the southeastern side near the People of Springs area, where you can look at it, and you'll notice something very interesting, which is something you only get if you play a lot out of bounds. But there are certain markings across the map that you as a player obviously can't see, but right here at like a very, very high height, you can start seeing certain map boundaries being drawn, and as you fly throughout the map, there's something very interesting you notice. So you can see it, there's like it looks like an area that's like cut through the map. There's like this zoom, this like slice, and what's very interesting is the moment you cross the slice, this is when you leave Natlan, the music actually changes. So depending on where you are in the overworld, you'll suddenly switch between Sumeru Desert music and Natlan music whilst you are still flying across Natlan, technically, or what you would perceive to be Natlan. It's just interesting to note some of the ways in which the game has been coded and so on. You can see the different blocks and slices, which is really, really funny. Which, by the way, whilst I was flying, I actually had like an idea of thinking, how far can you go out into the void out zone with a Qucusaur? It's something that I haven't tested, but it's something that I'll perhaps do later today. My guess is that you'll just, like the normal characters, just be go into the drowned out state. You'll leave the Qucusaur, your characters will be drowned out, and then you would have to reset the game. In any case, here's a bit of a view on the King Deshret area in Sumeru. It's also very, very beautiful. There's a bit of a far away view on Natlan. Natlan looks also cool. And there's a bunch of clouds here on the desert. It's typically what we could expect, although it does look a bit goofy if I'm honest. But then again, people weren't really supposed to see this apart from just changing the time of day. Regardless, one of the things that I also think in terms of like adding more value to the overworld that Hoyo could add, for instance, like here with the pyramid area, is like a weekly boss rush event per region where you've got like, let's say, an abyss breakout and you have to go to the Archon. She'll dispatch you and you have to go around the area. You'll take wind currents or let's say some new mechanic that allows you to fly through the desert, and it would just be so cool. You have to beat up the abyss, and that could be, I think like a more casual way for even F2P players to get more currency, and would just look really awesome. By the way, I flew into a sandstorm for some reason, and that's just because that thing came into rendering view. And later on, this is when I only discovered this later on, you have to fly really high up to avoid that effect like blurring you. So as you can see, I was just like frantically thinking, well, how do I get out of the sandstorm? And the problem is, once it's rendered in, it kind of sticks for a while. But we can just like I'll just skip forward in the video and you'll see me just now quickly flying through the rest of the desert. So yeah, once again with a bit of sped up footage, giving you a bit of a frontal view. There's not much really to see in the desert, as you can expect, apart from the fact that the mountainous area around Aru village is very, what do you call it? It's very convoluted and complicated. Even till this day, I can't really figure out how are you supposed to navigate that area. And looking from it at the top, you don't get any clear sense. Like if you go through some of the other areas, you can see, this is how the riverbed works, or the roads and the mountains. But here, it's just not really clear. In any case, I want to quickly show you something really cool. So we'll play the footage at normal speed, but look at this beautiful sight here with the Qucusaur very often the twilight that Genshin has can give you some really gorgeous photos, especially with the pink hues and so on. I know some people might think it's a bit too much, but I kind of liked the very unique atmosphere that that gave. So perhaps that's just me. In any case, let's go now to the world of Sumeru. So there is Port Osmos. You can see here we're flying across the rainforest. It's really, really cool just to be able to see an aerial view. Sumeru, of course, is very difficult and foresty and very difficult to kind of figure out from the sky, especially this forest area. So there's lots of detail here. Now, we're just going to try and stick low to the ground, but I'll go high up as well, although you won't really get as much out. You can see there in the desert, there's a couple of islands there on the coast area, which is also kind of cool. And yes, yeah, this is how the sky looks. This is one thing I would have also liked Genshin once again to do. Give us an ability to just cannonball a character way up in the air and then put them into a special gliding animation, or put like a contraption that the academia invented. Something where, let's say, you've done or you've explored the world to about 80%. So you've already done the majority of the quest. You can then be rewarded by having access to fast travel mechanics, which would be really, really helpful when you combine it with something like the treasure compass and so on, because we miss things. I mean, as people, you can't always just like start at one corner and then play through the entire map. For most of us, it is typically the case that you kind of randomly go through the area. I mean, personally, I just unlock all of the teleporter waypoints, and then once I've done that, I'll start doing the world quest and so on, because that's how you unlock the majority of the region. But funnily enough, even if you look at my on all of my accounts, you'll find random pockets of chests and puzzles not solved because I just don't play the world in that linear way. And I think the problem is you always have to then travel to a place, walk to a new chest. It can be very painful if you don't have a car that can drive you quickly, or just quickly go through the air. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much potential here. The overworld is so cool, and I just don't know why Genshin would not absolutely try and capitalize on it, and even just like, let's say, for a limited time event, give people the ability to fly throughout Teyvat, and then as a game dev team, you could then start seeing and testing how different renderings and scales work. So this is a cool idea where you use events to test character ideas and all sorts of game mechanics before ever releasing them. I think this is something we haven't seen that much that Genshin does, but it would be really, really cool. In any case, there was the aerial view we had of the entirety of Sumeru. There's one of the chasm, although it's just mostly fog, and I don't know, I can't make anything out. It just looks really, really weird. Although the cool thing here about Liyue is Liyue, like Sumeru, is also very convoluted in terms of all the ups and downs and stuff. So being able to just to see how the actual flow of the water and the springs like actually work, now it's like, oh, this area kind of makes sense again to me. So there's like the waterfall, and actually branches off into three areas. The one goes to the sea, and the other two around these regions, around the mines. It's stuff like this. It's like you don't appreciate the game until you thoroughly played it from multiple angles. And like I said, this is the one thing that the Genshin devs just don't quite hit. That it's just the one thing that keeps them from making this game really, really good. In any case, this has been a long video, so hopefully you've enjoyed the aerial sights. We're going to fly here on Watatsumi Island because it's my favorite island, and you can clearly as well see how the geographics of the island start playing out once you get an aerial view. It's really, really gorgeous. But from my side, yeah, this has been quite a fun long Saturday that I've had. We're also getting towards the end of the year. I've already bought like Christmas presents, wrapped them, and all of these cool, good things. So I'm at a point where work is slowing down. I've done quite a lot in terms of just slowly keeping up with Genshin throughout the year. So today it was incredibly fun to do something completely different, and then probably tomorrow I'll just relax and so on. But it was awesome to be able to share this with you. And although there's like 2 hours of footage, the majority of it you've kind of seen here, although there are a couple of things that we just wouldn't have time for, otherwise this video becomes too long. But if there is a special area or place you want me to visit or to look at, let me know. I think we've covered the majority of them in the past couple of videos, flying over Fontaine, flying over majority of the map here, so I think we are good to go. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have an awesome weekend. Cheers.